Yes, I know we're only 5 games in, but this is a question worth asking. At the end of my last video, I joked about Hearts becoming our new overlords due to the crises that have struck Celtic and Rangers. But, after an unbeaten opening 5 games, including a win against Rangers at Ibrox, not that it seems as impressive right now, along with the investment made over the summer by Tony Bloom, people are starting to have hope once again of the old firm duopoly being broken for the first time in over 40 years. So, in this video, I'll be looking through Hearts' start to the season, their transfer business, how Tony Bloom's other clubs operate and where they have succeeded, and if this is something that can be replicated by the Edinburgh side. Hearts last season were a bit of a mess. After finishing third the previous season, the club had qualified for the Europa League playoffs, but 1-0 losses at home and away to Victoria Pilsen saw them drop down to the Conference League. The league form was also a shambles, as after drawing 0-0 against Rangers in their opening fixture at Tynecastle, they would lose their next 5 to see them rock bottom of the Premiership. The last of these losses came away at St Mirren, which would see Stephen Naismith given the sack. He would later be replaced by Neil Critchley, who would see Hearts start to win some games domestically, but he would fail to win any of their last 4 games in the Conference League, including at home to Moldovan side Petrocub Hinchesti, to see them knocked out of Europe. Despite recovering to 6th in the league, a draw against Motherwell saw Hearts drop to 7th on the final day before the split, which, followed by a defeat at home to Dundee, saw Critchley also given the boot. Before the end of the season, however, Hearts announced their new manager would be Kilmarnock boss Derek McInnes. McInnes is one of the most experienced managers in Scotland and has been moderately successful with the clubs he's been at. He won the First Division with St Johnstone in 2009 before moving to Bristol City in the English Championship. Whilst his spell in England didn't end well, he would be hired by Aberdeen, which is probably the role he is best known for. With Rangers out of the picture, McInnes in his first season would lead Aberdeen to a 3rd place finish, a cup semi-final, and would beat Inverness in the League Cup final, giving Aberdeen their first trophy since the 1996 League Cup. 4 straight 2nd place finishes would be followed by 3 straight 4th place finishes, along with reaching 3 finals and 4 semi-finals, but his final season would see him leave having had a poor run of form at the beginning of 2021. McInnes would then take over Championship side Kilmarnock, who were struggling following their relegation the previous campaign. A penultimate game win against surprise challengers Arbroath would see Killy win the league, and this was followed by a 10th place finish. Their second season back in the top flight would see a 4th place finish and a return to European football, where they would make it to the Conference League playoffs before being defeated by Copenhagen. Domestic form, however, wasn't great, and Killy would end up finishing 9th, with McInnes leaving with 1 game left due to his new job at Hearts having already been confirmed. This was the first of Hearts' big summer business, with the next part being in the boardroom. On the 25th of June, it was confirmed that Brighton owner Tony Bloom had purchased a 29% stake in the Edinburgh club. Tony Bloom has been involved in football since 2009 when he became the chairman of his boyhood club, Brighton and Hove Albion. Since then, Brighton have risen from League One to the Premier League, built a new stadium having previously been playing at an athletic stadium, and qualified for Europe for the first time, getting knocked out of the Europa League at the round of 16 by Roma. In 2018, Bloom would add a second club to his portfolio with the takeover of Belgian side Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, or USG for short. USG were one of the top sides in early Belgian football, having won 11 titles between 1903 and 1935, but in the 1970s, they had dropped down to the 4th tier. When Bloom came in, however, the club was sitting in the 2nd tier, but were never really challenging for a promotion, but that would change in 2021, when they would finally be promoted to the top flight for the first time since 1972. In their first season back, USG would finish top of the league, but because Belgium is a weird place, they had a playoff split thing that saw teams' points halved, meaning instead of having a 5-point lead, they had a 3-point lead. They would eventually miss out by 4 points, but the 2nd place finish meant they still qualified for the Champions League. Their Champions League run would not last, however, following a 5-0 aggregate defeat to Rangers in the playoffs. They would reach the quarterfinals of the Europa League, where they would be defeated by Bayer Leverkusen. Domestically, however, they would be denied the title on the final day after conceding 3 late goals to Club Brugge and an equaliser for Royal Antwerp by Toby Alderweireld, so USG finished 3rd, with Antwerp being crowned champions. USG in Europa League would finish 3rd in their group, dropping down to the Conference League where they would be knocked out in the round of 16 by Fenerbahce. But despite topping the table again in the regular season, they were dropped down to 3rd following 4 consecutive defeats. But this was mitigated by a 1-0 win over Royal Antwerp to win their first Belgian Cup in 110 years. I know another Edinburgh club who had a run like that. 2024-25 would see USG finish 3rd in the regular season. This seemed to have the reverse effect of previous seasons, as they would go on to win 9 and draw 1 of the post-split games to win their first league title in 90 years. The success of both of these clubs has come through the use of Jamestown Analytics, a data analyst company specialising in football data that is owned by Tony Bloom. It's through the use of this company that both clubs have been consistently able to find absolute bargains who will be able to improve the team or be sold for massive profits. Moises Caicedo was purchased from Ecuadorian club Independiente for £5 million in 2021 before being sold to Chelsea 2 years later for £110 million. Alexis McAllister was also signed for £5 million from Argentinos Juniors in 2019 before being sold to Liverpool for £40 million. João Pedro was signed for Watford for £30 million in 2023 before being sold to Chelsea over the summer for £60 million. USG have also been able to make similar deals, with Franjo Ivanovic being signed for Rijeka in 2024 for £1.5 million before being sold this summer to Benfica for £20 million, Noah Siddiqui being sold to Sunderland for £15 million after joining from Anderlecht for £2 million, and Mohamed Amoura being sold to Wolfsburg after a loan spell at the German club for a combined total of £15 million, having been signed from Swiss club Lugano for £4 million. In November 2024, Hearts announced that they had struck a deal with Bloom to start using Jamestown Analytics, and in the January transfer window, they signed Sander Carton from Brann, Jamie McCart from Rotherham, Michael Steinwender from Varnamo, and Harry Milne from Partick Thistle, along with bringing in Elton Kabangu on loan from USG. The summer transfer window has seen Aguirre join from Santa Clara for over £1 million, becoming Hearts' record transfer, Claudio Braga signed from Arlesund for $500,000, and Kabangu make his loan permanent for $300,000. All of this meant there was a buzz of excitement around Tynecastle that was certainly added to by Tony Bloom's first meeting with fans. In his first interview with Hearts TV, he said that he wanted to get involved in Scottish football to end the duopoly that Scottish football has faced for the last 40 years and the monopoly that it has been for the last 15. He also said, "We want to be challenging to win the league at the start of the season. That should be a challenge for Hearts, for the players, for everyone at the club, that we can win any game that we go into. We can contend to win any tournament that Hearts are in." He also said that they had a very good chance of finishing second this season, along with saying he'd be disappointed if Hearts didn't win a title in the next 10 years.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Now, Hearts have been through this before. In the early 2000s, Lithuanian banker Vladimir Romanov purchased the club with promises of winning titles. This ended with one second place finish where, despite winning their opening 10 games, George Burley got sacked over petty disagreements, along with Vlad leaving with the club going into administration. So much happened in this time. I have a 25-minute video on the shenanigans. The thing is though, Tony Bloom isn't a Soviet oligarch and is clearly a sensible man who has had great success in football, which means that these promises do have some merit. Of course, there is one major hurdle that Hearts would have to overcome if they are to topple the old firm. Budgets. It's no secret that teams that spend more win more, and Scottish football is no different. When it comes to wage budgets, for the 2023-24 season, Celtic's yearly budget was £65.6 million, Rangers £61.2 million, and then Hearts at £16.5 million. It is hoped, therefore, that Bloom's analytical strategy can help at least overcome the budget deficit through finding bargains and spending wisely, rather than just chucking money at everything and hoping it works out. So with all this change, how have Hearts been on the pitch? Due to not qualifying for Europe, Hearts came in at the League Cup group stage, being drawn against Dunfermline, Hamilton, Dumbarton and Stirling Albion. They cruised through the group stage with 4-0 wins against Stirling, Hamilton and Dumbarton, with Dunfermline being beaten 4-1 at Tynecastle. Of course, beating lower league opposition doesn't mean much for how a league season will go, especially for a Premiership side, but they would start with a comfortable 2-0 win over Aberdeen at home, and then a last minute goal from Stuart Findlay would see them win 3-2 away against Dundee United. Their League Cup run would come to an end at the round of 16, however, following a penalty defeat away at St Mirren, meaning they still haven't won the competition since 1963. In case you're wondering, teams that have won the League Cup since 1963 include Partick Thistle, Raith Rovers, Livingston, Kilmarnock, St Mirren and St Johnstone. Even Hibs have won it 3 times since Hearts last won it. Their next league game would see them go 3-0 down at home to Motherwell, but they would fight back to get a 3-3 draw, which was a right laugh to watch from a certain Motherwell fan's perspective.
A little bit. No! Fuck off!
This was followed up with a 2-1 win at Livingston and most recently a 2-0 win at Ibrox against the struggling Rangers. So this all brings us back to the main question. Can Hearts actually win the league? Yes, but probably not this season. As mentioned, the gap between the Old Firm and the rest of the league is massive, but it doesn't mean Hearts can't close it. Celtic, for all their fans' complaints, have a squad that is simply too good to not win the league. And while Russell Martin is having a horrendous start with Rangers, it's important Hearts take advantage, as even finishing second will give them a chance in Champions League qualification, whilst third would be Europa League or Conference League, depending on who wins the Scottish Cup. Of course, Aberdeen looked like title challenges a third of the way into last season before utterly collapsing, so caution should be taken, but it seems the Tony Bloom revolution may have got off to a positive start in Gorgie. Hearts haven't been champions since 1960, but maybe in the near future this will change if what has happened at Brighton, and arguably more relevant to a Scottish context USG, are anything to go by, ending a 40-year wait for a non-Old Firm winner, which I'm sure most Scottish football fans would be happy with. Except Hibs fans, obviously. And maybe Aberdeen fans. And probably every other. Actually, you know what? Ignore what I said. That's all for this video, and of course I hope you enjoyed it. Do you believe that Hearts can win the league in the next 10 years? Or are we doomed to Glasgow dominance forever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Channel memberships are available with those who have signed up having their names on the screen now. Also, YouTube has this strange hype points feature for small creators, so I guess that's a thing people have to do now for algorithm reasons. I don't get it either, but that's appreciated as well. Liking, sharing and subscribing are, of course, appreciated as usual, and I will see you in the next video if this man flu hasn't killed me. Bye.